Hola estudiantes y buenas tardes. Vamos a cantar buenas tardes después de 2, 1, 2. Buenas tardes, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? Muy bien, gracias, ¿y cómo te vas? ¿Cómo te vas? Bueno, now in our last class, we were looking at números ordinales, which are ordinal numbers, and this meant that we were stating what position or what rank different things fall in. For example, if you're in a race, somebody comes first, somebody comes second, somebody comes third, fourth, fifth, etc. So that's what we were looking at. So we have una mochila here, and we have it has first on it, and we know that first in Spanish is primero. So first would be primero. Second in English looks like this, and in Spanish we say segundo. Second is segundo. Third in English looks like this, but in Spanish we say tercero. It is tercero. Fourth in English looks like this, pero en español, in Spanish we say cuarto. Fourth is cuarto. Fifth in English looks like this, pero en español we say quinto. We say quinto. Y la última, the last one, sixth in English looks like this, pero en español, in Spanish we say sexto. We say sexto. Now, today we're going to be moving on to another topic, and I hope that everybody at the end of this topic will be able to ask and answer these questions appropriately. So, I'm going to be asking mi amigo Raul for a little help as we introduce to you what we are going to be looking at today. Now, at the end of this lesson, I want you to be able to tell me what it was that we were talking about, and I want you to help Raul to figure out what it is that he needs to ask me in order to get me to where I need to go. So, escuchen bien. Here we go.
Ay, what's wrong?
No sé dónde estoy.
I don't understand.
No puedo encontrar mi casa. ¿Dónde está mi casa?
Oh, casa? That means house. I think she wants to know where her house is, but I don't speak Spanish. How do I ask her where she lives?
So, I wonder what it is that Senorita and Raul were talking about. What does Raul want to find out? Raul thinks that Senorita is probably lost and she can't find her way home, and he wants to help to ask her where she lives so he can help her to get home. Well, let's see if we can find out what that is today. Now, the first thing I want to inform you of is that in Spanish, if I want to say live, the verb to live is the verb vivir. So, like I said, the verb vivir, that's V-I-V-I-R, vivir, remember V sounds like a B in Spanish, so it's vivir, it means to live. The verb vivir means to live. Now, when we're asking someone now, where do you live? For example, I want to find out where Keona lives. I would ask her, ¿Dónde vives? I would ask Keona, ¿Dónde vives? Which means, where do you live? I want to find out where Javier lives. So I ask, ¿Dónde vives? Where do you live? I want to find out where Jonte lives. I would ask, ¿Dónde vives? I want to know where Jonathan lives. I would ask him, ¿Dónde vives? So, ¿Dónde vives is asking, where do you live? Where do you live? So I wonder if that's what Raul wanted to ask Senorita. Well, let's see. So, ¿Dónde vives is asking, where do you live? And I want you to say it after me. ¿Dónde vives? ¿Dónde vives? ¿Dónde vives? Where do you live? Bien. So, now, since we're asking where do you live, you know that we have to answer the question, right? So we can't just ask where do you live and then there's no answer to the question. So if I'm going to share where I live in Spanish, we're still using the verb vivir. We use vives when we're talking about you to ask where do you live. However, when we're saying I live, I'm going to say yo vivo en. Yo vivo en means I live in. So it's a sentence. Yo vivo en followed by the name of the place where you live. So, right. So what if, for example, I live in Cedar Grove Estates? I live in Cedar Grove Estates. In Spanish, I would say yo vivo en Cedar Grove Estates. I live in Spanish is yo vivo en. Yo vivo en. And you keep hearing me say vivo. There's no B in this word, right? However, the letter V in Spanish, it sounds like a what? A B. Muy bien. Un B. So we say yo vivo en followed by the area where we live, which means I live in or I live at. Yo vivo en, I live in. So if I live in Edgewater, yo vivo en Edgewater. If I live in Bridgeport, yo vivo en Bridgeport. If I live in Hellshire, yo vivo en Hellshire. If I live in Waterford, yo vivo en Waterford. If I live in Brayton, yo vivo en Brayton. But what if I live all the way over there in Kingston? I can still say yo vivo en Kingston. But what if I live somewhere else like Clarendon? I could say yo vivo en Clarendon. So it's just as easy as that. Now if someone should ask you, ¿y tú? ¿Y tú is simply asking, and you? So they would ask, ¿Dónde vives? And which means where do you live? And you answer by saying, for example, yo vivo en Cedar Grove Estates, which means I live in Cedar Grove Estates. You want to find out where they live also. For if you don't know where they live, you could simply say ¿y tú? And you. So I live. Where do you live? I live in Cedar Grove Estates. And you? We use ¿y tú? So you can ask back the question, ¿Dónde vives? Which is where do you live? Or you can simply say ¿y tú? Which means and you. Bueno? Now, while still using the verb vivir, which means to live, we can also say he lives or she lives in Spanish. And it's very, very simple. All you'd have to say is vive. So if you should see vive, it means he lives or she lives. So for example, I could say Keona vive en Bridgeport. That's just an example. Keona vive en Bridgeport, which would mean that Keona lives in Bridgeport. Or I could say Marlon vive en Waterford, which means Marlon lives in Waterford. So if I want to say he lives or she lives, I would use vive. Vive means he lives or she lives. However, you also need to remember that if you want to say I live, you have to say yo vivo. Yo vivo means I live. And if I want to say you live now, it's going to be vives. So you see the whole heap of be. So vive, we have vivir to live. This is the verb itself, without being conjugated, meaning without it referring to a specific person. But if we conjugate it now, meaning that we're referring to a specific person, to say you live, it's going to be the word vives, which is why we say ¿Dónde vives? Where do you live? ¿Dónde vives? Where do you live? And to say I live somewhere now, I, myself, me, Senorita, me, yeah, I would say yo vivo. That means I live. Yo vivo means I live. To say I live in Cedar Grove Estates, yo vivo en Cedar Grove Estates. I live in Kingston, yo vivo en Kingston. But if we're saying he lives or she lives, we're going to use what? Vive. So vive means he lives or she lives. To say that, for example, let's use somebody else. To say Savannah lives in Kensington, I would say Savannah, Bibe, and Kensington. To say that Mark lives in Portland, I would say Mark, Bibe, and Portland. So the person's name followed by the verb vive, and the place where he or she lives. And remember, if you're having a conversation and you want to find out where the other person lives, and you want to say, they tell you where you tell them where you live, and you want to find out where they live also, you can say itu and you. Itu means and you. Bien? Awesome. So I think Raul has probably figured out how to ask me where I live by now, right? I think he was listening. Well, let's see. Vámonos. So he's getting ready. So here we go. So Senorita was very, very sad because she doesn't know where she lives. She can't find her way home. So Raul, he's actually, a resident of the area, but Senorita is new to the area, so she doesn't know where to go and she doesn't know how to find her home. So she's going to tell him where she lives, and then he's going to be able to understand now because he was listening to what I was saying, and now he's going to be able to help her to find her way home. So let's see. No sé dónde está mi casa. I think she wants to know where to go to find her home. So, to find out where someone lives, I would ask, ¿Dónde vives? Yo vivo en Waterford. Bien. I know where Waterford is, so I can take her home. Gracias, señorita, for helping me with my Spanish. De nada, Raúl. So, he asked me the question, ¿Dónde vives? And I was able to tell him in Spanish, yo vivo en Waterford, which means I live in Waterford. And now Raúl can help me to get home safely. So, if you want to find out where somebody lives in Spanish, all you have to ask them is, ¿Dónde vives? You ask them, ¿Dónde vives? ¿Dónde vives? ¿Dónde vives? ¿Dónde vives? ¿Dónde vives? ¿Dónde vives means where do you live? And remember, when you're answering to say I live at a certain place, you say yo vivo en, followed by the name of the place where you live or the area you are from. Yo vivo en Cedar Grove Estates. Yo vivo en Portmore. Yo vivo en Kingston. Yo vivo en Jamaica. Yo vivo en Clarendon. Yo vivo en Portland. Yo vivo en Montego Bay. Lo que sea, wherever you are from. Okay? Now, there are 2 activities you're going to complete for me, and then on Friday we're going to be doing one together. Now, the first one is at the bottom of page 60. At the bottom of page 60, you're going to write a sentence in Spanish telling me where you live. So, just like I did, yo vivo en Cedar Grove Estates, you have to write your own sentence in Spanish now saying yo vivo en with the name of the place where you live. Now, I'm sure nobody lives in space or on Jupiter, so I need to see some correct information here, like the specific places. For example, like I was giving you before, Waterford, Hellshire, wherever it is that you live. So I don't want anybody to make up anything. I want you to use your correct information, all right? So you have to practice using your correct information. So on page 60, you will write a sentence in Spanish telling me where you live. And then now on page 61, this one is a little bit different. So for this one, you are going to, on page 61, you're going to pretend to be one of the children that are shown there. So there are different children on the page. You can pause the video and get your book so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. All right. So there are different children on the page, and you're going to state what their name is. That's first. You're going to follow the example, and then you're going to also state where they live in Spanish sentences. So to remember to say where somebody lives, he or she lives, you use vive. So he lives wherever, she lives wherever, you write vive en wherever the person lives. Okay? And you can also practice the conversation on page 60 with a family member or a friend, so that when we meet on Friday, everybody will be ready to do the activity on page 62. So page 62 is for Friday, but for homework for now, between now and Friday, everybody should complete page 60 and page 61. And remember, there are examples on page 60 to help you out. So hopefully everybody understood what we were doing today. We were asking, ¿Dónde vives? Where do you live? And we answered by saying, yo vivo en, for example, Cedar Grove. I live in Cedar Grove. And if I want to say, and you? Because I'm kind of inquisitive. I want to know where you live too. I could also say, y tú, and you. And then if I want to say he lives or she lives, I'm going to use vive. Vive means he lives, or vive means she lives. So this is where I leave you for today, estudiantes. Nos vemos en el viernes. I will see you on Friday. Adios, adios, adios. Adios, adios, adios. Adios, 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 adios. Adios, everybody.